Conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Village of Ephraim Board meeting to order. It is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 at 9 a.m. And we have a quorum. Okay, very good. And before I turn the floor over to Jeff Drasek for the Airport Commission presentation, I thought since we haven't met some of the people, I haven't met some of the people on the board, I thought we'd go down the line and introduce ourselves so they know who we are, since I don't know how good their view is of our names and so forth. So Rick, could I start with you?
Rick Hoyerman.
Thank you, Rick. And
Tim Nelson, trustee.
And I'm Ken Nelson, the village president. We have online also Matt Meacham. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you, Jeff.
Good. Well, good morning again. And
Okay,
I'd like to do the same so that you get to meet the Airport Commission members. And Mary, I see you on screen if you want to start and introduce yourself.
Oh, good morning. Hello. My name is Mary Hauk, and I'm a new member of the Airport Commission. So happy to be here. I'm a retired Delta pilot, and my family has had a home in Fish Creek since 1970. Since then, we have some other properties in Door County because we dearly love it. And most recently, I bought a hangar and airplane at the airport. So I just love the area, and it's a lifelong love. During my aviation career, I'll just tell you quickly, I flew with the military, also the commercial groups, safe board, and
Mike, just one second, Mary. We lost you for a second. Just hold on just a second.
Sure.
Okay, we're good again. Go ahead. Thank you.
Anyway, I was just telling you, I have a military and commercial background in safety and professional standards. I also work at the airport as an airport attendee. So I see the people who fly in and out, the people who drive by on their bicycles. There's just a lot of excitement and enthusiasm that the airport brings to our community. And it's in my interest to support safety there first, as well as a warm welcome to people for hopefully many generations to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Rich, you probably know everybody, but you'll see you online. Go ahead. Oh, we're not getting any sound from you. Can you hear him?
No, we can't. He has to turn on. It looks like his mic is off.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Rich. Now? No, we still can't hear you, Rich.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we'll let Rich play with his sound, but I guess most of you know Rich Bierman. I believe we have Gary Gloyak calling in. Gary, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
That's correct. I found the correct numbers.
All right. Do you want to introduce yourself, Gary?
Yeah, my name is Gary Gloyak. I'm on the Airport Commission. I've got property in both Gibraltar and Village of Ephraim, and I've got the old Anderson farmhouse from Albert Anderson down on Maple Grove Road, adjacent to the airport.
Great. I can't really see who's in the audience, but I believe Scott is there. Scott Pearson.
Oh, Scott, let me ask you to come up to the microphone. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And hit the button on it to get it to go green, and then you'll be on, and then everyone can hear you.
All right. Good morning. Name is Scott Pearson, resident of Ephraim, commissioner representing Ephraim. First time I flew into the airport, I was 2 weeks old, and it was 1969 in the back of my my dad's plane. So got a history with the airport. Love Ephraim, and excited to be a part of it. So
thank you, Scott.
Great. And I'm not sure if Tim is there. Tim Holbrook. If he is or not.
Jeff, can you hear me now?
Yes. Now I can, Rich.
Okay, sorry, I had the wrong one selected. So
Okay.
no, just as most of you know, I pretty much know everybody. So Rick and I grew up together down the street from each other. I've known Tim, worked for his parents. Brent obviously know each other. So yeah, very familiar with the airport, familiar with Ephraim, and growing up there for Rick and I our whole entire lives basically. Have a commitment to the community as well as the airport and everything else Ephraim. So should be good.
Great.
Thank you.
And
I'm Gary Gloyak. First flight into Ephraim was when you were 2 weeks old. I can't say that, but my son's first flight into Ephraim was when he was 2 weeks old too.
thank you. All right, and
Some
then
comment-
we have Tim Holbrook as well. I'm not sure if he's there, but he is a resident of Door County. He has business in Green Bay, so he's probably there if he's not in there. Lastly, my name is Jeff Drejesk. I am the new chairman of the commission. I have a house right next door to the airport on Highway A. I've been involved at the airport as an attendant. I own a hangar and an aircraft there. I'm the president of the Friends Group. I run the Young Eagles event every year, and just going to put in a quick plug for our 80th anniversary celebration this coming June. Would love to have Ephraim really actively involved in that as well. So with that said, I want to first of all thank you for this meeting. It's our really pleasure to meet with you and discuss, what has been going on at the airport. So we want to make sure that everyone has a good understanding of the past, present, and our future plans for the airport, as well as understanding the regulatory, financial, and operational kind of world we operate in. And it is my goal, and I know shared goal with the rest of the commission, that we are completely transparent with you today and moving forward. And I hope that my commitment to that is demonstrated by the volume and detail of information that I have sent over to you. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I acknowledge that right up front. So today I'd like to briefly go through, first of all, our understanding of the role of the commission, representing both the town and village, the limitations we operate in, our projects funding and prior agreements, and lastly, how we expect to be financially independent after completion of the runway rebuild. So I'm going to be referring to grant assurances during this discussion, the prior and existing runway plans and, excuse me, airport plans, and the 5-year plan that I had sent over to you about a week ago. So you do have 2 additional or more agreements. The airport overview offers a good historical overview, and also the facilities requirements is a very long document. And Brent, I did 112 pages. I apologize for the volume of that. So, and I'm going to put in a quick side note on that master plan. We are going to have a meeting in March with the state and engineering firm. So we have a next master plan discussion coming up in March, and I will let you know about that when that gets closer. So to start off with, I know that safety is a broad term that is thrown around a lot to do, when we talk about funding and project proposals. But I just wanted to highlight here, as a public airport that is funded by the federal and state government, we have a hard requirement to, and this is quote unquote, operate the airport in a safe and serviceable condition and in accordance with minimum standards. That's a federal grant assurance 19, and there's a Wisconsin DOT also chapter trans 55 that mirrors that. So to kind of translate that, that means we're responsible for keeping the airport in a safe operating condition. We need to warn pilots ahead of time of any dangers, and we have to take corrective actions to keep it safe. So examples of that are clearing out deer, fixing holes in the runway, plowing snow. We have to put out what's called NOTAMs to warn pilots if there's slippery conditions. So if we do not do that, so if we have a hole in the runway and we don't fix it and somebody lands there and damages their plane or there's injuries, we are held responsible for that. And so we take our commitment to that very seriously. And that is kind of our number one priority as an airport commission. So, and this really, I don't mean to get too serious about this, but we represent you. So ultimately, the owners are responsible, and so this is where complete transparency and communication is really important between our groups. Closely behind that number one priority is to be financially independent. And you've mentioned that before. We take that very seriously as well. And I think that fact that the last 17 years has been a time where we have operated, the commission has operated the airport without requiring external funding from you, or not external, just funding from you for operations or improvements. There was a loan for purchasing fuel, which has been paid back. But other than that, we've been financially independent, and we have every intent of becoming completely independent. And we'll talk about that as part of our 5-year plan. So core limitations. And this is really important because I know there's a lot of concerns about the airport growing and where we're going, but we are landlocked. The current footprint of the airport is limited on the north by Peninsula State Park, and we have no right to, even right now, trim trees. We have to work with them to do that, but other than that, we don't have any control over that. We cannot extend to the north. On the south end, we have a road, Gibraltar Road, and we have private residences on that side. And we have no intention of acquiring additional properties, private properties by eminent domain to do that. So all the properties that we have acquired have been offered to us first by the property owner, and that remains our operating model. Again, so that physically limits how long of a runway we can have and other expansions that we might, some people might think about. So one thing I just, kind of equate that is we will never get to a runway length that will handle jets. I know there's a lot of concern that we might get bigger and have jets and commercial service. That is not going to happen. We talked about extending the runway as much as we can, and that's for safety. And just briefly on that, I attached a document and sent to you 2 pages on the prior airport plans on runway 1432. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that. I'll let you get to that, Brent. But it basically shows that in the 1992 plan, so that's the 2013 plan, and the 1992 plan. It's been known since that time, 34 years, that our runway is short. And then again in 2012, that was or 2013. I'm sorry. That plan again kind of echoed that, and the runway went to 3,200 feet to match the state minimum for any new airports or new runways. So that is our intent. It's our concern. So we wanted just to highlight that this is something we've known about for a while. And so this is the discussion we're going to have a little bit later on too, as to what we might get to. But I can tell you up front that I personally don't think there's any way we can even get to 3,200 feet. It's a matter of what we can do within the limitations of the size of our property. So moving then now to improvement projects. Well, actually, let me just backtrack a little bit. You can see on that 2013 plan, we have been acquiring properties and building hangars. This plan here has basically the footprint and the plans that we are working right now for the master plan. And you can see there are hangars X'd out to the north, or I should say northwest. That was originally expected to become available. That property has not. And so if and when it were to become available, that might be something we continue. We did acquire the properties to the south. You can see taxiways and other hangars across the runway. And this is, you know, it was our intent and is required by the state in these documents is to kind of flesh out what this airport could look like in 20 or 30 or 40 years. And so, you know, we do not have direct plans for, you know, the expansions that you can see, but this is our general layout that has been in place and signed off by both the town and village since 2012, I think. So just kind of as a foundation. In 2020, extending into 2021, the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics requested a 6-year plan from us, or from the commission. And the commission worked with the BOA to identify improvements that they felt were necessary to continue operating the airport in a safe and serviceable condition. You've seen that through the history document. They're also included in the 5-year plan, and along with the status of what we have been acting upon since then. And those were listed as being necessary to continue to operate the airport again in a safe and serviceable condition in that petition. So the commission expected at that time to be able to pay for all of those improvements, except for the runway. And, you know, that's a big piece of that. It's actually the largest piece of that. So both the town and village at that time, and I don't know if it's 2020, I know it was discussed in 2019, but both the town and village began to put money aside towards that expense coming up. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the future as well. But that's expected to take place in 2027, possibly into 2028. So a quick side note on that, as a federally funded and state funded airport that's received grants, we are required to take all airport revenues and keep it at the airport in terms of paying for operating expenses as well as improvements. And we have been saving money for these upcoming improvements. And we've also paid for all of the other improvements that have been done since 2020, 2021 out of our revenues. So just another quick side note is this airport is in a minority of airports in the state of Wisconsin. According to my contact at the B of A, at least 80% of similar airports in Wisconsin require funding from their municipalities, and we do not. And we like that. We are kind of proud of the fact that we operate as efficiently as we can. And again, we share your wish, as you stated before, that we be financially independent moving forward. So that's a lot of information. I thought maybe I'd take a break and see, you know, basically if there's any questions or comments on the history before I start going into the 5-year plan and our future.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. Gary Gloyak here. One of the reasons that the airport is financially independent for its normal operating expenses is because of a group called the Friends of the Ephraim Airport. The Friends of the Ephraim Airport do a lot of volunteer work, everything from cutting grass to just taking care of things and providing a pilot lounge for the pilots that are coming in providing bathrooms for the pilots and their crews, and Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of things that people come in, and I try to spend a lot of time at the airport myself because I'm so close. The people just say it's one of the nicest airports that they've been to, and I tell them that the reason that we can afford to do a lot of the things to make it just a nice airport is that Friends of the Ephraim Airport provide a lot of services without pay, and that's a big thing to keep the airport going. If we had to pay for all of those services, we couldn't keep it as nice as it is. Thank you.
Are there questions at this point from the village board for Jeff?
I just have a point, clarifying
Carly, would you
question.
introduce yourself? So we
Yes.
run around and did introductions.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm Carly Mulligan. I live very close, but I don't know how I got so late. Anyway, so I just want to clarify, we're looking at the 2013 plan right now. The 1992 plan you kind of moved on from, because I know you were using this and that, and I just want to make sure that we're all kind of looking at the same thing, and the goal is the 2013 plan as much as possible.
Well, yes, and this is a plan that was developed in 2013 by the commission with the B of A. It was actually started in 2012 and then signed off by both the town and the village at that time. It was actually then signed off by FAA and the B of A in 2020, and it became part of the petition that was submitted outlining all of the projects that we thought were necessary to keep the airport in a safe and maintainable condition or serviceable condition. The whole plan is under evaluation right now as part of the airport master plan. Master plans are new, but the master plan is required of every airport, again, that has received federal funding, and we've been working on that for a couple of years. That's the part two coming up in March that you'll have at the whole, both Ephraim and Gibraltar, general public will have a chance to attend and comment on coming up in March.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Rick, any questions at this point?
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2013 plan again. That contemplated a 3,200 foot long runway. Was there a different standard applied then compared to now? Because I think I heard you say that you don't think that there's a way to get to 3,200 feet. The most you could get is 3,000. Or was there a different standard or a different piece of was available?
No. So the standard is still 3,200 feet by the state. And in the facility requirement document, that's that really long attachment, it goes through the requirements and the deficiencies. We're likely to always be, I think, deficient from 3,200 feet because what you have to do, and it's hard to see in that plan, is there's runway protection zones that extend out and past the runway. And there's two pieces of that. There's the approach zone and then there's the takeoff zone. And because airplanes take off slower than they land, and up and down, that zone continues to extend. So because of the limitations of the park and controlling property underneath these RPZs, 3,500 feet would extend into the park. And so I don't, 3,200, I'm sorry. So what we've been operating under, in which the state is working on with the engineering firm now, is really how much can we get? If we can get 300 feet, and that's where that number was thrown out before, it is our guess, but that again has to be worked through to see what we can do. I think that, and as a point, as we move forward, knowing as we do that this is less than the standard, I think anything that we can do to extend it will show our response to it. The 1992 and 2013 used the word ultimate in the runway lengths, and that I think assumes at the next rebuild, and that's basically right now. That's where we're at, is seeing what we can do to make the runway as long as we can within the footprint that we have. A quick side note on that, the facilities document shows the airplanes that are coming into this airport, Cessna 172, a couple of Pilatus, things like that. That is basically for a 3,200 foot runway. And so us extending even, if we could get to 3,200, which again, I personally don't think we can, it doesn't change the size of the airplane. It doesn't change the capacity. It doesn't enable jets. And so nothing really changes from what we have right now. It just shows our attention to, making it as safe as possible. So sorry for the long answer.
Anything else? Just one question I'd ask, Jeff, is the 3,200 is, you mentioned, a goal for new airports. We obviously have an existing airport with constraints. We've been operating at 2,650 for decades. So one of my concerns would be, and you stated this isn't a problem, that we would not change the mix of aircrafts. From an operational point of view, that this would not allow larger aircrafts to go in and out?
That is correct. I mean, and I don't mean to get too technical, but we can't set who can and cannot land here.
Right.
But for insurance purposes, and they match up airports now to a certain aircraft type. And right now, the Cirrus SR-22, I think, is the airplane that currently uses our airport, and that's kind of the general designation of it. But no, if we extend it out to 3,200 feet, and it's stated in that facilities document, it does not change. It does not allow jets. It does not allow any additional larger aircraft by extending up to 500 feet. And again, I don't think we're going to get there to 3,200.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So we submitted, I'm sorry, a kind of, I think it's a 4-page document. I have it here up beside me on our 5-year plan. Got a lot of numbers in it. I wanted to thank Teresa, our treasurer. I think she's online here too. She provided these numbers to me and answered a lot of my questions. So thank you. I'm learning this too. But we've gone through the last 10 years of our expenses. And you can see on the first page here, yeah, I'll let you get to that, Brent. Sorry.
Yeah, if you could help me out and call out page numbers as you need to. I'll do my best to follow along.
That's the operating plan. There's a 4-page document that I submitted last week. That's the 5-year plan. It says airport financial projection.
Yep.
There we go. Oh, is that it? Yes, that's it. So on the first page, you see historically what we have spent on, and there's 5 kind of core areas that we have as recurring expenses: insurance, maintenance, telephone, and this telephone charge is it's a combination because we have a weather reporting station that requires a hardline phone. It's becoming an antique for most of us, but that is a lot of that expense is our weather and reporting station. We have personnel costs, and then WPS, which pays for our runway lights and our beacon. Again, that's a big part of that. One of the upgrades to rebuilding the runway is replacing our lights with LEDs, which would increase the reliability and decrease the overall cost on that. So quick side note. There is a sub note here. Our insurance jumped up to 11,000 in 2025. That's because we acquired the house on that second property, which has been sold. We are closing. We should close on that in the next couple of days, and that's going to return some income to us, and I'll get to that in a second. But that insurance should come down as soon as that house is sold. So moving forward from this point forward, our annual projected recurring expenses cover all that, comes to $58,400. On the next page, I start going into our recurring revenues or income. And also listed at the top is our cash balances to show that we've been saving cash for these improvements in operations. So as you can see from this, and this is something I think I've mentioned before, and it actually was a little bit of a surprise to me when I first went into this, is that although the fuel station in 2009 kind of put us over the edge of being independent financially to cover our operations, it only returns right now 25% of the income that our hangar leases do. It takes a lot of work. We have to pay we have to pay taxes on it. We have to have the fuel station serviced every year and inspected. So really moving forward, we're really counting on leases and not necessarily fuel. So again, hangar revenue is 44,000, fuel sales 10,000, parking, and that's both airplanes and cars, and then other miscellaneous comes to about 69,000. So we are assuming a base net income per year of about $11,000. I then go on to talk about those improvements that we've identified back in 2020 with the B of A, and that was included in the petition. And I know that both the town and village put resolutions in place, delineating those as well. And then we get to the projection. And I've highlighted here kind of the parts I think that people are most interested in, but these numbers are fresh. We've got the 2025 numbers. We're going through an audit right now of those, but the cost for the runway rebuild of $3.678 million is from the DOT B of A as of mid to late December. So as I go through that, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of history. That runway 1432 was created and paved in 1970. So that runway is 56 years old. We have patched it, we've recoated it. Right now, the base underneath it is what has been called as being necessary to be replaced. So it has reached the end of its useful life. And that is what's driving our need to rebuild that runway. Again, as we talked about before, the length of the runway has been noted as a deficiency since 1992. We're going to work with the state and the engineering firm to see what is practical and what we can do there. And that's why in this projection, I have a safety extension placeholder. That would assume that we could get 300 feet additional. So whatever we can get, that again is a placeholder, and we still have to work through that and lock that down. We have known this. As I mentioned before, any extension will not change the type or size or capacity of the airport that can currently use it. And so this is what we've been working on. So The income, again, I noted before that we're getting 94,000 from that house that we're selling and people are moving. I've started out at that 10,818 as yearly income. We're showing increases in 27, 28 with the addition of hangars. So we have a spot for 6 additional hangars, 5 in the new area, 1 in the existing area. So that brings in roughly $2,000 a piece. And then 3% cost of living increases in there as well. Impact fees, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but the FAA decided to pull back on what they're willing to pay for new hangar areas. And so we're having to pay for electrical service to be brought in and for additional paving to be done. That gets passed along to these hangar builders, the new hangar owners, through their impact fees. And they have to pay those as soon as they put a lease in order to be able to start building. Right now we have 3 out of 6 that are under letter of intent. So they all intend on starting in the spring. So we should get 2 to 3 of those coming in this year. And it's our expectation that those would be filled in 2027, 2028 by the latest. The next line is the village funding. This represents the split. The total amount is 5% of the total cost, as outlined below that. The expenses here, and these are really project expenses because operating expenses are factored into our net income. So after our operating expenses, we expect to have roughly $11,000 plus coming in a year. So these are the project costs. You know, we're finishing up the preparation of this initial lot for 5 hangars. That will be done this summer, and then we're going to start building on it. We acquired the second lot, and there's going to be some preparation done on that in 2026. The design is started for runway 1432. Master plan completion, we talked about that. That should be done this year. The runway costs, we're not sure exactly when we're going to be billed for that. Generally, we're billed at the end. So I've spread it across 2 years, but it could be all in 2028, and it could be parts. So I just arbitrarily put them half and half. This is the placeholder. This is kind of the 300-foot extension. That's our 5%. And again, that's to be determined, but it is a placeholder. Tree trimming and removal, we're going to have to do that as part of this runway rebuild. As the trees grow up, that they grow into the runway protection zone. We talked about property acquisition. There's no buildings going up in that. It's not an expansion. It's just protecting the runway protection zone. We have numbers in there to replace our tractor and our other snow removal equipment. Our tractor broke down once already this year. We had to have the county come in and help us with the plowing. I know you're probably doing more plowing than you thought you were going to have to, and we are doing that now, but that is a placeholder. And then lastly, kind of similar to what we did on the first lot, preparing the second lot that we acquired for additional hangars. And that, I think there's 7 additional hangars in there. So that should take us out for another 3 to 5 years beyond that, depending on demand. But then those fees come back to us through impact fees as well. So I wanted to then highlight at the top, so cash at year end. And this kind of gets to the question of how we can be financially independent. This number goes up, as cash flows and goes back and forth to cover the runway rebuild, majority of that. But then by 2030, we get down to a number of about $60,000. We would feel much more comfortable and is having an amount of $60,000 to $75,000 at the end of each year. That's to cover fuel purchases. As I mentioned, fuel, right now, a fuel purchase costs us, I think the last quote was around $34,000. It's gone as high as $40,000, depending on fuel price. And then we sell the fuel and we get the income in the next 6 to 9 months. So that's a cash flow thing as we operate the airport. But it's for, in our estimation, we want to have enough money on hand in case the tractor breaks and has to have a repair that we have to pay for, in case there's other things that we have to address. We want to have that be $60,000 to $75,000. And we would like to build up a reserve for doing any capital improvements, tree trimmings, things like that, to maintain independence. We take this, fairly, seriously. I know that the cost has gone up in the last since 2020 when we first estimated this. These are accurate numbers now. You see the runway rebuild. Spoken to our B of A counterpart, and as you can see, it goes down to the $333 level of accuracy, and they are confident that they're going to lock in contracts at this amount. I think I've covered everything I want. Any comments by the commission members? Am I forgetting anything?
Scott?
Hey, Jeff, one question I had. Do
Yes,
you
go
know
ahead.
what
Yeah,
do you know what the total paid-in amount was from the federal and state government, into the airport under the grant programs? Do you happen to know what that
So,
number is?
in the
Like
past,
since we started. Yeah.
Yeah. Since I don't have that in front of me, I do. It's been millions of dollars. Using an example here, if you look at this total cost, the first column, the improvements that we have before us between now and 2030, this is just under $9.2 million total. I think it's important here to think of that. So if you look at the share that we're paying, the local share, it's generally 5%. So the federal government pays 90%, the state pays 5%, and then the local share is 5%, which is then divided between the two owners, the town and the village. So at this here, if you take the amount, is around $100,000 for each of the municipalities, and you look at the $9.2 million total amount, the two airport owners are bearing, I think it's around 1.1% of the total amount, because of the amount that both the airport revenues, our savings, and future income are going to cover. And then also, lastly, if you look at the fact we've been independent since 2009, 2008, if you look at the amount of money, it's $100,000 over 20 years. So we've been doing whatever we can do to make this airport independent, and we're acting on this list of activities that we had in the petition. We took that list and said, what can we do to act on these with the funds we have, and that's kind of been our operating model. Did that answer your question, Scott?
Hey,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, I had a question. This is Rich. Can you maybe touch base or maybe bring a little bit more clarity just so everybody's aware of what the petition actually is and how that works when you do work through that, as well as maybe touch base on what grant assurances are. I know they're in the packet, but just in case everybody hasn't had an opportunity to read what that means to have grant assurances.
Sure. So every 6 years we have to do a plan, a 6-year plan, and that started in 2019, I think, 2020. After we put together this plan, then it's rolled into a petition that goes to the state, the B of A, and then used by the B of A and the FAA for being eligible for funding. And that's that 90% from the federal government, 5% by the state, and 5% by local. That's the general convention. That petition went in, and what it reads, there's some language in the actual petition, and I think in the resolutions as well, that said that we believe that we, the owners, and it's signed by both the town and village, we believe that these repairs are necessary to maintain the runway in a safe and serviceable condition. So with that, anytime you get a federal grant nowadays, you have to sign a certification, and that certifies that we, as the airport and the airport commission and the owners, will comply with all 39 of them. There's quite a few, and it's basically on, if we buy a property, we can't go and sell it without their permission. It talks about use of airport funds, requiring that because the federal and state government are making a big investment in the airport, that they want to make sure it stays an airport and that it is used by the public, open to the public. We have to allow any bona fide aeronautical business to operate. We set the fees, but so we have to continue to comply with those grant assurances. If you do not comply with the grant assurances, one is they cut off funding, but they can also go back historically and make you pay back prior grants. City of Santa Barbara made national news, and there's a group called the Airplane Owners and Pilots Association and EAA, both got involved with that, and they had to pay back like millions of dollars because they wanted to go private. So this is kind of, it's the carrot and the stick. The grant assurances have that power. There's also state requirements that kind of match that. So it's complicated, and but again, we take that very seriously to make sure that we are compliant.
Other questions from the board for this round? Carly, go ahead.
Have you taken into consideration the construction or reconstruction of the runway and how that would impact kind of the funds that are coming in and that you're relying upon to kind of be able to operate?
So again, the operating expenses, insurance, all those things I named above, those are kind of rolled into the yearly net income. So that $11,000 or $10,818, that includes all the expenses and the general income. It does not does not include any grants that we're going to get for the projects. So it's kind of a operating expenses and then the project expenses. So the operating expenses, we will net out starting $10,000, and then we're going to get up to $25,000 per year based on the increasing number of hangar leases. That, as I mentioned before, that is our steady, stable source of income for the airport. And so the more hangars that we're able to add, the less we become dependent on fuel sales or other sources of income. It's really our most stable form of income moving forward. Did I answer your question? That was kind of long.
I don't know that you did exactly, but I understand that hangars are the largest source of income. I'm wondering, like, if the runway is shut down, is there any way, are you taking into consideration that the fuel sales will be down, the parking income will be down, that sort of thing?
During that time period, yes. It is, I don't know how long the runway will be down. We don't have that information right now. I have requested almost every conversation we have that we would start in the fall and we would do as much over the non-busy times. They are aware that we are a destination for vacation, people coming up. And so we will do as much of this outside of the tourist season, if you will, to your point, so that we minimize the impact on that. Fuel sales will probably go down, but at the same time, our hangar leases should be up by then to kind of balance that out.
Tim?
No questions.
Rick?
I've got a few questions. As to the runway, the 300-foot runway extension, is that, when you say that you don't think that the airport can go beyond that, is that based on the current land that is controlled by the airport, that as things stand currently?
It is, yes, yes, and also based on roads. So Highway 42, the park to the north is a physical limitation we have. Gibraltar Road on the southern end is a physical limitation. So and it's not just the runway. We wouldn't build a runway out to the roads, but it's those runway protection zones that go beyond that. So it's a matter of staying within that, and they don't like runway protection zones to go over roads. So again, this is all, it's a complicated engineering task to figure out what we can do. I think you mentioned earlier, if we're able to come up with 100, 200 feet of an extension, it shows our good faith efforts to make it as close as we can to the minimum that the state approves now within the limitations that we have.
Okay. So in other words, there's no potential property out there that could be acquired that might change your opinion on going more than 300 feet. Is that another way of saying it?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we've had a couple of versions come through. And I think that the 300-foot extension gets to both of the roads. But there's other things to consider with the runway protection zones. So as I mentioned before, the FAA has, first of all, they wanted the landing zone protection. That was what they've always done. But now they realize that airplanes, when they take off, climb slower. So they're doing takeoff protection zones as well. So again, it's a big feat, but I can't see. I personally don't think 300 feet. I think 300 feet is the most we're going to be able to get. And again, I know everybody's concerned about big planes and jets, and even at 3,200 feet, we're still not long enough for jets or larger planes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you a few questions about the revenues, and I'd like to get to a better understanding. When you say lease, on the lease numbers there, is that just the hangars, or is there anything else on the property that is leased that I'm not aware of?
No, it is leased.
Okay, it's just hangars.
Yeah, and it's 65 cents per square foot. Right now, all the leased lessees, I guess, pay 65 cents a square foot. We've been looking at commercial. We have a request for a person to come in, and they've been exploring looking at having a business there, at which case we would raise the rates of the leases. to do that. So we're looking at ways to increase our income through leases. But yeah, this is a baseline with the current hangars at 65 cents a square foot. 65 cents per square foot is also relatively high in the state of Wisconsin.
I was going to ask that question, how that compared, because I just trying to do a little bit of math here. It's 65 cents a square foot. I'm coming up with a hangar that's about 1,900 to 2,000 square feet. Is that about what they are each?
The minimum hangar right now is 50 by 50. So that's 2,500, which comes up to be, I think, $1,950 per year.
Okay, and in terms of comparing that to other similar airports, do you think is that rate competitive? Is it high? I think you indicated
it's high, but people are willing to pay it. You know, they speaking with Gary, who's on the phone. Gary owns a hangar down in Waukesha, and I think they charge 60 cents or something like that per square foot, but they also pay for the land around the hangar. So, I mean, regular municipal airports don't have quite the draw that we do. And so, they charge lower amounts. Some of them really want to draw in traffic. I know at Oconto across Green Bay, they drop their fuel prices very, very low. They get a lot of traffic, but they want to see growth there. We're not in that group. We are looking at maintaining our income. And I made the point before too on fuel sales. We probably could make more money by lowering our fuel prices, but then we're going to get more planes coming in. And they're going to be people just stopping to get fuel. And I don't think that's consistent with our culture or what the airport or what the community wants.
As to the parking, is that cars, planes, just cars, just planes? What is that for?
It's both. So we charge tie down fees. A small plane pays $16 per night as a tie down fee if they stay overnight. Car parking, I think, is $7 a night. And I have to thank Teresa, who's on the phone, our treasurer. She came up with the idea of having barcodes on the side of the office, because the airport is only attended Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, and people come in and they leave, and they it's kind of a honor system. It still is an honor system, but now we put up barcodes so that people come in, they land the plane, they go up to the office, they scan the code, they paid it, and that's where parking came up this last year. And same thing for the cars.
Do you have an idea of if those fees are competitive with similar airports? Did you have some numbers that way?
We they're similar. It depends on where you go. That some airports have high fees, especially commercial airports for overnight. A lot of airports don't charge tie down fees, like rural airports. If I go to Shawano, I don't think there's an overnight fee. But again, we charge it because people want to come and they pay it.
Jeff, Gary Gloyak here. If I could, on the commercial rate for hangar space, if they're operating a business has to be aeronautical related, such as having a mechanic there can do annual inspections or repairs. It can't be just anything. It's got to be aeronautical related.
Hey, Jeff, this is Rich here. Just a point on this too when we talk about the fees. And it's one of those that we, as the Airport Commission, look at everything to try to figure out how to increase and expand our fees, to be able to stay financially independent as we have since 2009. But I was doing some research the other day because I think we can say that Madison is probably a fairly metropolitan airport. And I was looking at what their hangar prices were and what they have for what they call impact fees, which is what we have also. But because of the structure of what we're dealing with our impact fees, for any new hangar right now, just so you guys know, nobody's getting a free ride. Every new hangar, at least in this new section, is going to have an impact fee of, what is it, Jeff? $38,000?
Roughly
I think
34, yeah.
$34,000. To give you guys a little bit of a, for instance, do you know what the impact fee is at Madison when you put a new hangar up? If it's non-commercial for personal, it's $5,000. So I would say that we're definitely getting money out of it, considering that that is a metropolitan airport where the cost of dirt is significantly more. The infrastructure is significantly more. It's $5,000 there, and we're going to be paying $34,000 for the hangar impact fee at Ephraim Gibraltar.
Rich, is Rick.
Yeah.
When you say impact fee, I mean, payable by who and payable
By the
to
builder.
whom?
By the builder. So like for instance, if I'm building a hangar, my cost of just before we even scratch the dirt, I got to write a check for $34,000. I don't get to do anything other than write you a check to that's what you see in the revenue statement, for 34 grand to help cover the electrical and part of the infrastructure cost. So that's just the table stakes of getting in. That's not the cost of the hangar. That's not the cost of the slab. That's not the cost of anything extra. It's just what we're charging to be able to at least start the building.
So since you bring that up as an impact fee, Rick, this is Ken Nelson. What is our cost, the airport's cost of providing electricity and of doing the paving up to that hangar?
So I'll jump in on that. Yeah, so the cost to bring in electrical service from the street, from Maple Grove Road is about, I think it's $94,000, $97,000. And that serves 6 hangars. There's 5 in the current one, and then in the expansion, it'll cover another one. They complete it seems like a lot of money because I called WPS when I first saw the money, but they also have to use a rock cutter because we don't have any topsoil. So these wires have to be buried, and then they lay conduit to each one of the hangar sites. It is included in the construction costs. So basically the airport pays, but then we get it back in impact fees when the people sign a lease, when they want to build a hangar. Kind of as Rich was saying, we own the land, or you own the land, and the builder is responsible for all costs of construction. They then can sell the hangar as a property, personal property, and we don't have any control over that. Hangars right now, used existing hangars have been selling $80,000 to $100,000 a piece. New hangars are probably in the 150 and up, depending on epoxy floors and all this other stuff. But all those costs are borne by the hangar builder. As I mentioned before, the FAA, since we built the last row of hangars, again, pulled back on the electrical service, and they pulled back on the amount of paving that they will pay for up to the hangars. So the hangar builder has to pay for 15 feet of asphalt from their hangar apron to the taxiway. And that's about another 70,000. And that's on a case-by-case basis, but it totals for the 4 hangars in the new area, $34,000 a piece.
So there's not a net profit for the airport on these impact fees. It's just to cover our costs. Okay.
Yes, it's a payback.
Okay. Rick, other questions?
All I have for now.
I've got one kind of observation, Jeff, and I must say I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate the quality of the presentation. It's really excellent to bring us all up to speed, especially on the financial end. The observation I'd like to make is I think it was 2019 that our board met with Gibraltar's board, and had, I think that was our last joint meeting. And you mentioned the 6-year plan, and it sounds like the time is right for us to get together again to look at the next 6-year chunk. I think you're talking about now for our planning, not necessarily the federal and state planning, if I understand this right. And at the same time, then we could take a look at the agreements we have, the ordinance we have, the operating agreements we have between Gibraltar and Ephraim, and see what we want to do with those and update those. So I think we've got an opportunity. The timing is very good here.
I think that'd be great. When you raised that to me, I think it was in October, and I think in the September meeting too, you mentioned that we were not providing the reporting per the maintenance agreement, with a 5-year projection and things like that. And yeah, we took that to heart, and so it's been a lot of work, but it's something we should do and we will continue to do. I think having just complete transparency and open communication is key here to doing that. We did look at the current ordinance, the operating ordinance, and the maintenance agreement, and I found discrepancies. One had the annual report, the financial, and things like that. So we did propose some amendments to both to kind of merge them and make sure that they are consistent with each other. But yeah, going through all that, I think is a great idea, and we'd be happy to participate in that.
Great. I have a question from someone in the audience here, but before I go to that, do you have more of your presentation you'd like to make, Jeff? I don't want to cut you off.
Well, we just wanted to just learn what your thoughts are. You mentioned, your vision. I think that we've been, the commission's been acting in good faith based on that petition and the needs identified in there to do that. We've been trying to do as much as we can on our own with funding, but we just want to make sure that you have the information that you need and that we're also clear on what our role is representing you, both municipalities and having open communication there. So we're interested in any of your thoughts or suggestions.
I had one more question on the financials. Brent, if you could scroll up one page, the next page where there's projections, or maybe it's the other way. I'm sorry. There it is. The projections I see for the net yearly income going up as it gradually rises 28 and 29. Can I assume that that's for the 65 cents per square foot fee on the new 4 hangars that are coming in?
Yes. So the base right now, the 10,818 this is all based on 65 cents per square foot. And as we add hangars in 2027, it goes up by 6,000, and then another 6,000 when we add 2028. Those are new leases. There's 6 places right there. So that's, but it doesn't factor in any increase to the 65 cents per square foot. If we do any commercial add-ons to that, we've discussed that just at our last commission meeting. We would probably raise the per square foot rate to $1.12 was the amount that we add. That is for any business operating aeronautical business. So that would increase those rates as well. We're talking about how to do that. This is something we haven't done a lot of. But so we talked about starting out with a 3-year lease, so it would be add on to an existing lease. And again, you would see those agreements as well.
Mm-hmm. So at the bottom of that, where you have prepare second lot for hangars under expenses, that's the property, the new property that you now own. And I believe you said 8 more. So if we were to project these projections out beyond 2030, we'd see a significant increase in yearly income revenue.
Exactly. Every hangar that we add, based on current rates, is around $2,000 per year, and that's guaranteed 20 years.
If we had the demand for 8 more hangars, we'd be talking about another $16,000 a year in income.
Right, right. And again, I'm glad you said that because we won't be spending that money that prepare second lot for hangars. We won't be spending that until we rented out or leased all the existing spots, and then we would move ahead based on the waiting list like we have right now and letters of intent and things like that. That's what would drive that.
And I think you also made the point that the big projects, obviously the runway reconstruction, I think you're talking about, because you're talking about a full depth new runway, right? Where everything's removed.
Everything's got to come up. They highlighted one thing is we have a slight arch in our current runway, and that has to be removed. You have to stand on one end of the runway and be able to see the other end of the runway. It was current standards in 1970. But this is a rebuild. And like I said, we've had them come in and put a topping. We put 2 inches of slurry on it several years ago. We've had crack filling, you know, other repairs, but pieces of the slurry is starting to come up. So it's a necessary rebuild.
Yes.
Hey, Jeff, this is Rich. I just want to make the point on that too, just because sometimes it's kind of like a point of relevance is I don't know anywhere in the village that we haven't probably redone it or anybody with their personal driveways to say that blacktop lasts 56 years. And I can't stress that enough because we've done everything we possibly can to Band-Aid, patch, fix, repair. And it makes it pretty challenging, you know, when you get to the point where it is a base issue now, because the putting lipstick on it's not going to continue to provide us a long-term solution. And I guess my 2 cents from that standpoint is it's been brought up to us since whatever, 91, 92, 2013. We kind of keep kicking the can, and I think we're seeing the effects of sort of kicking the can a little bit because it was 2 million, now it's 3.7. We wait 5 years, I'm afraid of what that number is going to be. It's one of those that I think we have to just take care of what we need to take care of, and hopefully it'll be good for another 56 years.
Well, to have gotten 50 years out of that runway is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So-
that's where I'm at. Sometimes I think we lose sight of that going, hey, we just want to add runway. We just want to do this. I think really what it boils down to, Ken, is it's the time for the rebuild. And it's also the time for us to not kick the can on the recommendations from the Bureau of Aeronautics and the FAA, knowing that we're not going to make it to what they want, but at least we're going to try to get closer, fully understanding that it's not going to change the aircraft type or rating that's coming in there. We're just trying to at least show good faith that we did as much as we can. And regardless of our land acquisition, to Jeff's point, we aren't going to be able to expand that to get to anything. I mean, truly, we would need 3,700 to 4,000 to actually change the type of aircraft that are getting in there. And that would mean we'd have to take over the park, and we'd have to move Maple Grove Road and everything else. And there's no intention of that, none whatsoever. So it really is locked into kind of as some of the discussion has been, kind of a very small to mid-sized airport that just is making it safer. And I do want to touch very quickly on that from a safety standpoint. Even though the planes can and have landed, there are challenges depending upon, for those that are from the aeronautic standpoint, is with very strong crosswinds, with different winds and different issues that are going on. It makes it a significant sometimes challenge to land there, and you end up using the entire runway, which it gets a little sketchy sometimes. I will tell you, one of the things that we do have too, and that the pilots even out of Green Bay that fly up here for their training classes and stuff like that, one of the real tests is flying into Ephraim. One, because of the crosswinds, because of the length of the runway, and also because of the fact that it's 60 feet wide, which is, you got to be on your A game coming in at 60 feet. So it does make it a challenge. So, doing anything we can from a safety standpoint. I know that term gets thrown around sometimes loosely, but it really isn't. When we talk about aeronautics, you get one shot at it, and it's not like boating. If you do something wrong, you can float away or throw your life jacket This is something that's it works or it doesn't work. So there, thank you though for.
Let me go to Mike first, because we've got a couple questions from the audience or comments from the audience here, and Mike McCutcheon's first up. And he certainly knows the drill about introducing himself and turning on the microphone.
Who's Mike McCutcheon?
He'll introduce himself. You'll see.
For the record, I'm Mike McCutcheon. I'd like to give a different perspective here. There are 2 or 3 of you on the board that went through Streetscape. And when I first took over as president, first of all, let me say that I served when I came here on the Airport Commission because I am a pilot. And I will tell you that the sophistication and the depth of what you see now from that commission would make us embarrassed back then. It just was a lot easier. No one cared about figures. We went every year just to keep the place going. We went to the municipalities. And so when we started off, that's my perspective as a commission member. When we started off on Streetscape, I went and sat at the feet of O.C. Bolt. And I said, I'm new to this. I've not done this before as far as leading a municipality. What are your thoughts? I think all of you know O.C. Bolt. You know what he had accomplished in his life. His involvement in the Village of Values, which was a study done of Ephraim. Where was Ephraim going to go? I forget, back in the 90s, I believe. And he said to me, Mike, your responsibility as an individual and as a board member is to provide safety for your residents in your town. That is the number one thing in his mind. And I took that very seriously, and we did, as a board, take that very seriously. And the analogy or the comparison, as we did this, was, say, sidewalks. And as I sat, Ken, Tim, and in all of your seats and looked out, there was a large number of people. What do we need sidewalks for in Ephraim? Wait a second. There haven't been any road deaths. We don't need sidewalks. And now, as you come through Ephraim and you see the volume on those sidewalks, you say, how did we ever get by it without having them? And Ken has worked a great deal of getting the North Ephraim path, and what he had to go through and what you as a board have had to go through to make it safer. And then I think we have numbers. Jeff has gone through this, but I think your responsibility really here is, how can we make that airport safer? I am a pilot. And it has been drilled into me from the first time I walked up as a student to be as safe as you can. And I think it's our responsibility to provide a runway, in this case, that is as safe as it can be. And there are accidents. I have one particular plane, and I simply wouldn't fly in here. One, obviously, because the runway wasn't long enough, but the other, I could get it in and whatnot. But if I'm having a bad day, the winds aren't right, on takeoff, one of the engines quits, can I stop in time? Landing, am I coming in too fast? And I said, no, I won't do that. And I had to put the airplane down in Sturgeon Bay, both of them, where it was long. And so that's how I look at this. The money is important. When we think back to when I was on the commission, as I said, every year, hat in hand, we went to the municipalities and said, we need this much from you. Yes, it is important. I thank Ken and I thank you all for bringing this up. I thank Jeff for his very in-depth study of this. But I will say, I believe you as a board, number one is safety. I believe what O.C. Bolt taught me. I believe what we did as far as streetscape was concerned, safety was really high on the priority list. And I would like to have you consider that equally to the money that is involved here. And when I initially heard of this, I said, well, gosh, you know, the elite pilots, a very small population, and only 14 of them are Ephraim residents and whatnot. And I said, now, is that really the way to look at this? I mean, were we going to look at sidewalks and say, is that going to be used mostly by Ephraim? Well, if it isn't, why are we doing it? Things like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Scott, did you want to make another point? Sure, come on up.
I kind of think the gorilla in the room is jets, you know, as it relates to the airport. You know, before I took I stepped into the position as commissioner, and a chance to meet with Ken, and we talked a little bit about that. And so I just I went back and I wanted to do a little bit of work and talk to a couple jet pilots. I looked at the smallest jet you can get in here, which would be the Vision jet. And I talked to a pilot. They looked at the operating handbook, and I asked him about flying into Ephraim with a 3,000-foot runway. And what he said to me was, he said the issue is acceleration to stop. Like I could get the plane, even with the existing runway length, I could get the plane in and I could get it off the ground. But if I had a problem, you know, I would need 4,300 feet to stop that plane. If I was at full speed before takeoff and I needed to abort, I would need 4,300 feet. So when you get into a pilot's mind that's flying a jet, and I actually am running out the next like slightly larger jet, and I'll get the numbers on that. I think it's important for the village of Ephraim to understand in the town of Gibraltar what it would take, you know, for a small jet to run its engines up at the end of the runway and take off. I think the facts, circumstances around that are important. So while you can get a Vision jet in and out right now, I don't think any of us have seen one up there. At least I have not. A long time ago, maybe somebody brought something in, but I think most pilots that fly those jets would view that as irresponsible and dangerous. And I just wanted to give you that color because, you know, the 300 extra feet, if that was actually done, it's the same calculus that you use in a small plane. You know, a 172 with 4 people in the middle of the summer. If you're rolling down the runway and you have a problem, you want to be able to stop it. And that 300 feet can make a difference before, you know, you go off the runway or you make a decision where you actually have to fly as opposed to stop. So, you know, that I know we have a lot of other pilots here who have landed on shorter runways. But I think that's important to understand both what it would take for a jet to get in and out safely, and also what the considerations are of, you know, a pilot flying, you know, the types of planes you see come in all the time. You know, in summer months when the density altitude is high and you have people in the plane, it's actually a dicier, you know, situation than many would think. So that was it, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Scott, while you're there, I think I appreciate very much the way you put that, the gorilla in the room. I think you're right, but it's also an increase in the numbers of bigger airplanes. Like for example, a King Air, a twin engine turboprop. If the expansion happens, do you get more aircraft like that in here too? You know, how busy is the airport going to get? I mean, these are all concerns that are in addition. I agree with you, jets. You know, that's kind of a scary thing to when people think about this, but it's also the sheer number of planes, how busy it is, you know, people trying to have silence in the park, you know, things. I mean, it's the nature of changing this airport from what it has historically been to something that is unrecognizable in 10 years. That's also the elephant or the gorilla in the room.
Yeah, I've looked at that. I mean, interestingly, with the existing classification of the airport, the 2 planes you see in there, you'll see a Pilatus and you'll see a King Air. Those are currently, I have not seen a King Air, you know, fly in and out of 3 Delta II. I don't think 300 feet will make a difference in the category of aircraft that you see coming in, Rick. I think one of the problems, we probably have as a commission is when you have the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics making a recommendation on, minimum lengths or getting as close to lengths as you can. I think it's important we listen to that and advise the owners, being the Village of Ephraim and the town of Gibraltar, on what we think is, prudent and responsible.
Sure.
But it's a fair question. I think our view is it doesn't change the category of aircraft that will be coming in, and King Air is on the list right now, and for I think very good reasons. They tend not to go in there. Pilatus, occasionally you'll see a Pilatus go in and out of there, but yeah. But I think jets, I think I asked some Village members, I said, hey, what do you think? What's your view of the airport? Do you ever think about anything? And a couple of them have said, yeah, I understand we're trying to get jets in there. So it's definitely in the Village. I think people are worried about that and thinking about it. And I think it's important in a setting like this, we just all talk about that. So I wanted to run down some numbers, and I can chase them down further if that's valuable. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that's a concern that we had a meeting, a village board meeting. We had a village board meeting. All right, I'll try this again. We had a village board meeting in September where we talked about the airport, and one of our concerns was there was no feeling of being anti-airport at all, but we like what we have, and we don't want to see it necessarily change relative to the number of aircraft, the mix of aircraft. So it is, we're going to have to convince ourselves that I understand the safety. I've done airport work, so I get all that. And I'm inclined to totally understand what you're saying, but I think we have to make those comments about that the mix isn't changing, and be able to back it up. So
yeah,
that's one of our challenges.
Fair and reasonable. So
thank you.
All right, Ken.
Let me, Matt Meacham is on the line. Matt is our fifth village trustee, and I haven't given him the opportunity to ask any questions if he had them of Jeff. Matt, do you have any questions?
No, it's nice going last because then you don't have any questions.
Okay, we covered it? Okay, thank you. Other people in the audience that like to make a comment or statement? Yes, sir. And you know the drill about coming up and introducing yourself. And there you got it.
There we go. All right, Travis Tyson, I'm the administrator for the town of Gibraltar. I'm also here with Chairman Steve Stones. Just wanted to address the board here today to express our same concerns in the town. We also want to make sure we scrutinize expenditures. We also, want to make sure that the airport doesn't enlarge itself to the point to where our complaints for aircraft and landings and takeoffs become a problem, become problematic as well. So we share those same concerns. Both land and takeoff do overlap into Gibraltar. So we do have people that come into our board meetings and express concerns over that. So as these discussions have gone on in the town of Gibraltar, we have faced those as well. And the board has decided that safety as part of this airport has been the focus, and minimizing as much as we can to just maintain a good, strong safety is where they're at, and have saved up for that portion of it. But I wanted to make sure you understand that the board has expressed to me they share your same concerns, not to expand, not to get more aircraft, not to improve the traffic that's there. That's going to cause problems in the current status that we have in the town and village. So thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Other comments or questions from anyone online or anybody else in the audience? Okay. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate all the information you've given us. Oh, I did. Okay. It's given us a lot of background. I think the time has come for having this joint meeting, and we should do it this spring, I would propose. If we're going to look at a 6-year plan, excuse me, the one we have is expiring then. So it's the time is very good, and we can talk about this. One thing I maybe would recommend that we do, if we're doing the major capital projects right now, which are the runway and the expansion of the hangars, I would like to see us expand that cash projection maybe out another 5 years, because I kind of wonder, as you look at paying for things, if it wouldn't be possible for the local share to be paid out of future revenues as they grow, because, again, we have to look at what is our future capital projects. We need to be saving for those also. But it's nice to see the revenue going up, that maybe that could be covered. We just recently built a public works building, and we had half of it in cash, and the other half, we took a short-term loan out to pay it off that way, rather than putting it on our taxes. So something to think about as we move forward. Other final comments from the board?
I guess just this is a thought that I've had kind of from the beginning, is that we're asking for more oversight, and also asking for them to be more financially independent. And I think sometimes they work against each other. So I think we just have to find a balance to that. And hopefully we're on the right path to having a shared understanding of what that means. And I look forward to more conversations and more transparency. It sounds like we're all looking for the information and just hoping we can kind of come to that agreement.
I think if we have a chance for both parties, the town and the village, to look at the ordinance and look at the operating agreement, that's where a lot of these things can be put in. What involvement does our board and the town's board want to have in these decisions? Because there's a lot in that 6-year plan. I mean, all the things they're talking about is in that 6-year plan. So now we're going to have another 6-year plan coming up, which will be, I think, an opportunity for us to feel comfortable that the airport is going to operate similarly the way it does today. So any other comments anyone would like to make? And
Gary Gloyak. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Gary Gloyak from the Airport Commission. I just want to thank the village board for taking this up, or allowing us the opportunity to participate in your meeting, and look forward to that spring meeting. I share the general concept that I've seen throughout this meeting, that we want to keep the airport the way it is right now and maintain the safety issues that we have. Thank you again for allowing us to meet with you.
And I'd like to echo that as well. Moving forward, I was going to ask how you would like us to keep you updated on a monthly basis. I mean, we're happy to submit a status report, prior to each of your meetings in writing. I know that you'd sent out an outline kind of a one, Ken, before, and we attend the Gibraltar meetings. We could attend your meetings as well, either via, this Zoom or go-to meetings. So we just want to really keep the communication channels open, make sure that your questions are answered, that there's not a big gap, because when there's a gap of understanding, that's when people start jumping to conclusions, and we see that in the general public as well. So anything we can do to keep that open and healthy, I think will help us both. And thank you again for today.
No, I appreciate it too, Jeff. And I believe you just recently sent me, I think it was for the month of December, like a 1-page. And I don't know that we need it monthly, and we will be getting together as a group now this spring. But if you find that helpful to yourself also, please share it with us. I thought that was very helpful. I don't want to create a lot of work for you. I know you've done a hell of a lot of work. I appreciate all the work that went into the documents you sent over us. And I think I speak for the board. It makes us feel a lot more comfortable with what's going on. Before we really didn't have a good idea, except we got these big projects coming and we don't know how we're going to pay for them. Right. So this has been very helpful. I appreciate it.
Great. And I will over advertise, but your involvement in this coming up airport master plan meeting in March with the engineering firm and the state, please, more is better for participation. So thank you again.
Yeah, we will be there, and I assume that will be held at the town hall in Gibraltar.
I assume so. I don't know. I don't know that site.
I don't know why I said that, but we're happy to go over. We will be there. Just as you said, let us know when it's going to be so we can understand and participate.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, you all, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.